Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks again for attending another session of Chief Architect Training. My name is Drew Stawick, and I'll be doing the session today for you. Today we're going to be covering roofs. We'll go over how to manually draw roofs. We'll go over how to add a porch and put a shed roof over the porch, and also a return gable roof over a porch. I'll also cover how to manually draw a saddle when you have a, say, a garage next to a two-story. So let's get started. As you can see on my screen, I have a ranch plan, and it's basically the same thing that you guys would have as a template. See, if I do my little cross section here and use my measuring tool, you can see there's my 8-foot height, ceiling height, and you can see my overhangs are flush. If I have a Cape plan that I have up already also. If I do this cross section, you can see there's my knee walls, there's my collar tie, and for those of you in the Northeast, you know that we have a dropped heel. So this represents a drop heel. Now, if you start with the templates that I've provided, this is all set up for you. If you want to start from scratch, then you have to set all this manually. And probably a good portion of you are not going to know the distances between the knee walls and the distance of the collar tie height. So it's real useful and helpful to start with the template already. But there are still times when you're going to need to know how to draw a roof manually. So first, let's go back to the ranch. I want to start by clicking on the roof tool, and I'm going to briefly go over all these commands. The first one obviously is build roof. And again, if you start with the templates, all these settings are already set for you for that particular roof pitch. This one happens to be 712. You can see my eave overhang and my gable overhangs are set. I have trusses checked because we have a truss. We don't use a bird's mouth. And I also have raise lower from ceiling height. You can see that that's set. If this was set to 0 and I built the roof, you see I already did the math for you with these templates. If that's set to 0, now you have a dropped heel on the set on a ranch truss, which is not correct. So I can either undo that, or I can go back into my roofs, and I might as well do that since the number is still fresh in my head. And it was 8 7/16. Now I have to make sure that I check build roof. If I just say OK and get out of this and check my cross section again, it didn't actually raise the roof. That's because I didn't rebuild the roof. Even though you open this up and you may make changes, it's not going to do any changes unless you say build roof. And you can see it automatically checks build walls, floor, ceilings, and build fascia and roof trim. That's okay. You can just leave those checked. Let's say you had a porch on the front and you didn't want to lose it. You could say retain manually drawn or retain manually edited roof planes. And what that'll do is, if you open up the porch and you uncheck roof over this room and then you rebuild your roof, it'll leave the porch roof the same and rebuild the roof over the house. Ignore this one right here is useful for capes. Sometimes, occasionally I have this happen, and I haven't been able to figure out why, but occasionally when I let me uncheck this under the structure tab. I'll go over this here in a minute. I'm going to uncheck these room types, and hopefully I can get the situation that I'm talking about. Occasionally when you generate a roof, it gets confused about where the roof plane should be. And you can see what it did there. It pretty much didn't do what we wanted it to. It put a roof put a roof plane over this exterior wall and a roof plane over this exterior wall, but then it also put a roof plane over this knee wall, which we want to be a knee wall, but we're not telling the program that it's a knee wall. And you can tell I did that because I unchecked knee wall. And I also don't have this labeled as attic. So let's try to rebuild the roof now. Okay, there, now we get the complete roof the way we want it. If for some reason it was still drawing it goofy or not the way we wanted it to with the cape, all we need to do is say ignore second floor. And what that's going to do is it doesn't matter what you have up here, it's going to put the roof over the first floor. And I guess I should explain that a cape is actually 2 floors. You can see there's floor 2 and floor 1. Even though it's putting the roof on the first floor, which we know because we checked ignore second floor, or it will automatically put the roof over the first floor if we have these rooms labeled as attic and these walls labeled, if we open them up, if we have them labeled under the roof tab as knee walls. It automatically knows that we want a cape condition, so it'll put the roof over the first floor. Hope that wasn't too confusing. Again, for those of you that are new that may have not have attended these, there is a question tab on your webinar. I'm not quite sure where it is for the viewer. If you have any questions, just type it in there and hit enter, and as I get them, I'll answer them as I get them. Or try to answer them. Okay, let's go back into the build roof. And that's pretty much all we need to worry about on the first page, except for this one right here says minimum alcove size. Let me show you what that does. Let's say we have a recessed porch. And I'm just going to get rid of this wall. If I generate the roof now, it's going to want to put a roof over this part, over this section of the house. And you can see if I do a full overview camera, you can see what it wants to do. Well, what this alcove will do, I need to know the dimensions, the size of this alcove first. And I can see it's 11'5" by 5'5". So if I say minimum alcove size is 11'6", we'll just make it a little bigger than what it is. Build roof planes. It's going to go ahead and ignore that area, which is what I want for a porch. So that's kind of a useful little gadget there. Let's see. Everything else, pretty much leave the way it is. Under the Options tab, for the most part, the rest of these tabs, you're pretty much just going to leave everything the way it is. Maybe the only thing you'll want, now this is as long as you start with a template. I think out of the box, the cut is square, boxed eaves are unchecked. And I'll show you what kind of roof that generates if we look at our perspective full overview, you can see what it did to the overhangs. It makes them, some people call it dog-eared, not quite sure what you want to call it. So we need to make sure that we have those checked. It's a plumb cut and a boxed eave. And default to overhang is leave that checked by default, and let's build our roof. And again, if you start with the templates that are provided, that's already set for you. Okay, and there you go. There's your square cut and your boxed in eaves. The only other thing on this tab that I think you might want to change or adjust is maybe you don't want to show the gutter. Okay, you can turn the gutter on and off right there. You can also, after the roof is generated, you can turn the gutters off manually just by double-clicking on the actual roof plane itself under the Options tab, uncheck gutter, and that'll turn that gutter off just for that roof plane. So if you have gutters on the whole house, and maybe on your double dog dormer you don't want to show a gutter on that little leg part, you can just turn it off on that one part of the one section of the roof versus the whole house. Like I said, the rest of this this is pretty much all just general information. The framing, you're not showing framing, so there's really no reason to mess with it. Even the on-center spacing, you're not showing that, so you don't really need to mess with that. But if you want, you can. It's there. You can also show designer raptor tails, which that would definitely have to be something that you guys did on site. Obviously, we don't do anything like that. But you can see you can show different. It'll put one of these moldings on the end of the roof, on the roof edge, on the eave. Gutter. You can actually change the gutter, the style, if you'd like, or you can use the default one. You can have it throw a freeze molding on. This arrow here, that is, let me open up a new plan. That's that arrow right there. You can change the size and the look of it. And then materials. I don't recommend changing them in here, simply because the best way to do it is actually to go into default settings, go into materials, and if you want to change the roof material, change it here, because then anytime you generate a roof plane, it will use this type of roof, whatever you have set here. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And then it also has, the very last tab is roof styles. And if you click on one of these, it just brings up the help menu and explains what kind of roof it is and the steps you need to do to achieve that roof, which is pretty much what I'm going to be covering today. Now, I'm not going to cover these roofs here just for the fact that we don't build a camber roof. We don't do all those kind of roofs. We do hip roofs, gable roofs, shed roofs over a porch, and dormers. So those are the 4 that I'll be covering. Okay, if we click on our roofs tabs, this first one was obviously the build roof dialog. The next one is ceiling planes, and I'll be covering that hopefully at the end if we still have time. This is what we use if you want to show a cathedral ceiling inside the house. I'm not talking an open vault like in a cape. I'm talking like a say you have a 712 or 512 roof and you want a cathedral ceiling. That's how you use this to generate that. Gable roof lines, I'll be going over that. That is for a reverse gable in the front of a house. Skylights are pretty self-explanatory. I'm not really going to go over that. You want to put a skylight in, you click on the roof, and you can resize it to whatever size you want. It's pretty basic. It just cuts a hole in the roof, and it has a piece of glass in there. You can change the trim if you like, if you don't want it to be black or whatever that is. They're pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on any time on that, other than what I just did. And the next 2 are auto floating dormer and auto dormer. We'll go over those in the cape when we do the cape roof. And then there's edit all roof planes, fix roofs, and delete roofs. I don't really do any of these. If you want to mess around with those, you're welcome to, but I just don't use them. I don't know that I see the need to. Okay, let's get started on how to, I'm going to close this down without saving it and open it back up. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and delete these roof planes. And you're not watching me, so there. This, if you started a roof from scratch, or a house from scratch, excuse me, and you went to build the roofs, this is what you would get. You would get basically a hip roof. Oops. Let me close that cape view down. Excuse me. Go back to the ranch. We'll do our camera full overview. Okay, out of the box, or I shouldn't say out of the box, anytime you draw a wall, it by default has, under the roof tab, it's going to put a pitch on it. It's going to put the, it's not a gable wall, it's not a knee wall, it's going to want to put a sloped roof on it. Okay? What's nice about, what's new in X4, one of the things, is when I click on an exterior wall, you can see the fourth command from the end is change to gable wall. Or vice versa, if I wanted a hip, it says change to hip. Well, I want a gable, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it that way. I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to say change to gable. Now basically they added that so that you didn't have to open up the wall, go to the roof tab, and check full gable, which it's a nice little addition that they added. Now when we click on the roof tool, build roof, we get the gable roof that we were looking for. Okay, so this is all pretty basic. Hopefully you should all be able to do everything up to this point. If not, though, that's okay too. I'm going to go ahead and delete these automatically generated roofs, and I'm going to show you how to draw these roofs manually. Now obviously it's a whole lot easier to do it automatically, but there's going to be times when you have to do stuff manually. It's just how it is. So what we want to do is select the roof tool, and this second button is roof plane. So as soon as I click this roof tool, I'm already in draw roof plane mode because I can tell it's checked right here. Now to draw a roof, I want to make sure that my snaps are on, and for those of you probably do not have this toolbar up, I actually, under Tools, Toolbar Hotkey, Customize, under the Configure, I actually have the Extended Tool Configuration, which basically puts, it doesn't put every single command up, but it puts almost all of them. If you have a limited monitor space, you probably don't want to do that. But you want to make sure all these snaps are checked. If you don't have this toolbar, just go under Preference, and it's under Edit Behaviors. It's under Edit, Snap Behaviors, Snap Types. You can see this right here is identical to this right here. You want to make sure these are all checked. You want to make sure angled snaps and bumping and pushing are also checked. A lot of times they'll get turned off, and it'll do things that you're not expecting, or So I know they're on. I'm still in draw roof plane mode. I can tell because my little box is highlighted. If I wasn't, it wouldn't be highlighted. So I'll click on roof. Now I need to make sure that I'm over the outside edge of the wall, not the inside, but the outside. It's not going to snap to the siding, so don't worry about that. As long as you're out on the exterior of the wall, you're good. So once it's there, we want to left click and hold our mouse down and drag, either right or left, it doesn't matter which way, and then release. Now right now I don't have anything, I don't have any mouse button pushed. My next click is going to determine which way the roof plane extends upward. If I take it this way, which I'll just go ahead and do it and show you, it's going to want to extend the roof plane away from the house, obviously. So obviously we don't want that. And swap views. I'll go ahead and delete this roof plane. Back into build roof. Make sure I'm over the exterior of the wall. Left click, hold, drag, release, and then just click inside the house. Very simple. And I'm going to demonstrate how to draw a hip roof first. Now there's two ways to connect these roofs all together. First is if I select this edge, if I select the horizontal edge of this roof plane and the vertical edge of this roof plane, you can see I get a temporary X, temporary point. Now, for some reason, I did have someone call me up, and they said they weren't getting that that point. So let me find it again. Okay, under the Architectural tab, under Roofs, make sure Automatically Place Roof Intersection Point is highlighted. If that's not highlighted and you're trying to draw roofs manually, it's gonna be almost impossible, because you need to know where the roof planes join one another so you can accurately show the roof. So I know that this roof plane is going to join this roof plane at this point. So all I need to do is select this edge and drag it to my X, and as long as my snaps are on, it'll snap to that X point. Then I can take this, I can drag it to here, or I can even drag it over here to the edge of this, and you can see I'm getting a snap, so I know I'm good. Now I know those two roof planes are joined. Okay, there's another way that is a whole lot easier. If I were to try to join these two roof planes, I would have to do I would have to pull this back. I have to pull this back, find out where they intersect, and hold on. I have to go through this whole 9 yards of joining them together. Well, an easier way to do it is I'm going to use the Join Roof Planes tool, which is this command right here. It says join roof two roofs. So I know I want this edge and this edge to join. So if I select this edge, click the join roof, and select that edge, and it's not doing it for me. Why didn't it do it for me? Let me try this edge. There we go. Probably because when I was editing it there, it did something to it. So let's just go ahead and put another roof plane on. Now they should join together. There we go. So this is the simple way to do it, but you still will need to know how to do it manually. There's just going to be times when you can't do it automatically. Then all we need to do is drag these up. So there, it took a little longer, but I got the same result. Okay, now if I didn't want the gable or the hip roof, when I draw these roof planes, I'll set my overhangs first. Now I can either drag this out past, then click on this and type in 12, or I can select this edge, grab this temporary dimension I know is going to the edge of the house, and say minus 12. Same results, one less step. Then all I do is use my join roof plane tool and drag this and snap it out to the edge. And a lot of people try to make a mistake trying to get it just right in there. Just drag it out here to the edge. You got that snap, it's going to go right to the edge. It's a lot easier. Okay, so there's my gable roof. Everything there fairly straightforward. Any questions so far? Okay. let's get into the next command that was on the line, which was, the second one, which was, excuse me, gable roof. As long as this line is within, I think it's 24 inches or something like that of the house, it'll put a, let's just pull it away once, see how far it actually is. When you generate the roof, and it's telling me that the roofs I did manually are going to be deleted, and because I drew those manually, say OK, and you can see that's within 3 feet. So I think it is 36 inches. As long as this, excuse me, as long as this gable roof line is within 36 inches of the edge of the house, it'll put a reverse gable dormer on the house. Okay, I usually try to keep it between the house and the roof, just so it's not out here in no man's land. You can put it wherever you want, though. It doesn't matter. Now, let's say we want that centered over our front door. Okay, I'm sorry. Where did the line come from? I guess I didn't exactly demonstrate that very well. Click on the roof tool, and under the gable roof line, I select that command, and now I'm physically drawing it myself. Okay, I can draw as many of these as I want, but obviously I only want the one. But what I do want to do is double click on it, and now I can change the length. One of our common ones is 18 foot, so I'll change the length to 18 feet. Now there's a couple different ways I can get this to show up on the house where I want it. I can throw a dimension on here, and let me pull this dimension line away. Make sure it's to the edge of the house. Make sure it's to the edge of the gable. If I know that I want the gable roof to start, let's just say 18 feet. Now we'll build the roof. And there's my 18-foot reverse gable dormer that starts at 19 feet from the end of the house. Or, I'm sorry, 18 feet. So that's one way to do it. Let's say I want it centered over this door, but I don't want to do the math. I can select this, use my center objects command, and see how I get these different lines. This one's going to center it on this dormer line. That one right there is centering it on the outside of the house. And if I bring it over to the door, you can see I get that little center line over the door. So if I click there, now I know my 18-foot dormer is going to be centered over the door. So if I regenerate my roof, there's my dormer centered over the front door. Okay? Now let's say this particular roof plane is a 712 roof. Let's say I know I know for sure that this dormer is, let's say it's a 912. There's no way for me to open up this line and specify in here anywhere that I want this reverse gable dormer to be 912. So what I need to do is I need to do this manually. So I'm going to open up the roof plane by double-clicking on it, and if you can't get it by double-clicking on it, just get it highlighted and select Open Objects. I could just change it right away, but I want to lock my fascia top first, so that way the fascias line up. So I'm going to lock my fascia. See, I can lock any one of these four. I can lock the ridge height, the baseline, or the fascia top. So I'm going to lock the fascia, and I'm going to change my pitch to 9. I'm going to do the same here. And unfortunately, you can't do them both at the same time when you're trying to change that. Say OK. You can see it changes the dormer pitch, but now it's not connected to the house. So again, we could do this manually. Select this sloped edge and select this vertical edge, and there's my X. I can do it that way. Or I can use my join roof plane tools. And I'll have to do this one also. Okay, so that join roof plane tool is pretty convenient. And you can see now that the overhangs line up. So that's good. Okay, let's say we wanted a leg on this dormer. Well, how am I gonna put a leg over my reverse gable? Well, we're gonna have to draw this manually. And more than likely, if we're going to do that, we're going to have the door, let's say the door's over here. Now, I know our 18-foot dormer has a 7-foot leg on it. So if you know all that information, we'll come in here and I'll go to CAD, lines, and draw a line. Or you can use W on your keyboard, or if you switch to all extend toolbars, the draw lines will be on there for you already. So basically what I want to do is I need to find the edge of where the dormer needs to be. So if I come off the front door and just draw a line, excuse me. Now I know the short leg is 7 foot wide. So if I use my transform replicate, make a copy, and move it the half of 7 feet, which is 3'6", I'll move it to the right. I'll pick it again, transform replicate, make sure I have a copy, move it, and this time I want to move it minus 3'6". Okay, if I use my ruler, I should have 7 feet, which I do. So I know I want this little dormer part centered over the door, so now I have it centered. Now what I need to do is I need to move the edge of my big dormer to the edge of this line. Well, if I just grab this and move it, it actually lengthened the line, which isn't what I want. If you did that, that's okay. You can open it up. And as long as you have your start and end indicators turned on, which is if you go to your preferences and under the edit tab, make sure you have your start and end indicators checked. When I double click on this line to lengthen it, I want to lock my E, my end, and I'll say 18 feet. So that's one way to do it. Okay, you can see it shortened it up. Another way is, let me undo both of those, get it back to where it was. When I highlight this, instead of left clicking and just dragging, see how I got the right and left arrow? If I hold my center scroll wheel down, see now I got the plus? That's going to move the entire object instead of lengthening it. So I'll just stretch it over. As long as my snaps are on, it'll snap right to the edge, and there it moved it. You can see there's the end of it. Now all I need to do is regenerate my roof, because I moved my dormer, and it's going to say it's going to delete the dormer, which is okay. If I wanted it 912, I would change it again back to 912, just the way I did before. But now to get this small leg here, I need to make, let's look at it in 3D. Basically what I want to do is I want to take this roof plane and mirror it over and make a copy so I have the same identical pitch here. Or I could take this and move it over, but it's a lot easier, I'll show you here, just to take this and mirror it. Because what I can do is I can select this roof edge. I want to pick copy, And the next set of commands comes up is I have the sticky mode, which means I can just make a bunch of copies. I can do point to point, or I can do reflect, which is mirror, reflect, the same thing. If I click this, you can see I can reflect it about this line, or if I didn't have that line there, I could reflect it about the door. Same thing. So now what we have is I have the exact same thing. There's my little leg. Excuse me, all I have to do is trim everything up. And we will do that by picking it. First, I want to drag it into the edge of the house. I want to make sure it's to the siding, not the wall. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to square it up. Right now it's a triangle. So if I select this sloped, the angled edge, use my break line command, and select anywhere on this line, doesn't matter. Grab the diamond, and as long as all my snaps are turned on, I can just bring it over here till this is vertical, and that was horizontal, and there I go. So I'm halfway there, 3/4 of the way there, 2/3 I guess. Now the last thing I need to do is trim it up so that it's flush with here. So if I select this edge, all I need to do is drag it till it snaps to the X. You can see it already put an X there for me. It knew what I wanted to do already. Swap views, and there's our 18-foot dormer with the leg. Okay, and again, like I said in the first part, if you don't want to see that little piece of gutter there, which I kind of doubt you would have a piece of gutter there, and I'm not sure where you would run the water to, you can say options, turn your gutter off, and it'll just turn it off on that little leg, whereas it leaves it on the rest of the house. Okay, any questions on that part of it? Okay. The next thing, and this is going to be the same. You're going to go about doing this the same way, whether it's a 2-story, whether it's a 25-foot double dormer with a 10-foot leg. All the steps are going to be the same. It's just the sizes are different. Let me go to the capes. And there's 2 ways to put a cape dormer on. First of all, if you're dealing with a cape, you should really do it the proper way, which is have 2 floors, have your knee walls and everything. It's just nice also for the fact that maybe the customer, hey, what's it look like up there? Well, you can say, well, here's going to be your slope part of the roof. Here's your knee wall. Here's your collar tie, and they can actually physically see how much room they're going to have up there. So let's go back up to our second floor, and under the roof tools, we have floating dormer and auto dormer. The difference between these two, the floating dormer just sits on top of the roof, and the floating dormer actually frames it out to the knee wall and the whole 9 yards. If I tried to put this floating dormer in here, I'm going to get an error. It says it can't create the dormer because there's walls in the way. That's because this just wants to sit on top of the roof. It doesn't want to have anything to do with walls. Whereas if I come back to the ranch and I do the same thing. Let's go up to the attic actually. Did the wrong thing. I need to be on the first floor. It's telling me that the my roof pitch, there we go. So a floating dormer, basically, I guess the only time you really want to use this is, let's say you had a ranch. You had a 712 ranch, and a customer says, well, I want to see that with a 1212 and a dormer. But you just want to show it to them in the quick. You can go ahead and regenerate the roof, say 1212. You don't have to bother doing a second floor, putting your knee walls in. You can just go ahead and show them the dormer and what it's going to look like. But beware that if you try to go to the second floor and show them what the upstairs is going to look like, you're not going to see what you want, because like I said, all it did was cut a hole in the roof. It didn't frame anything out, and there's nothing to frame it out to because it's an attic space. Okay, so that's I guess on the quick fly, if you just want to show it real quick, it's not a bad way to do it. But if you want to do it the right way, or not, I shouldn't say the right way. If you want to do it probably the way it should be done, I guess that's kind of the same way of saying it isn't. You should actually be on a cape where you have a first floor, second floor, knee walls, and whatnot. So in this case, we want to go to roof, and we want to use our auto dormer. And just click in here, and you can see if we do a 3D interior here now, it actually puts our walls in and frames it out the way it's going to be built. Okay. Now these are fairly straightforward. There's really no secret to putting these on. As long as you have your knee wall, your attic, as long as this is labeled attic space, and these are labeled knee walls, you should not have any problem putting a dormer on. And let's say you want a 5-foot dormer. This one happens to be 5 foot. I like to add 3 inches. I like to add 3 inches to whatever size you have, because if you look in here, you can see it's actually going to the edge of the siding. So the whole thickness there is probably 1.5 inches or so. So I'm sorry, between each side, 3/4, inch and a half. So just add 3 inches to whatever you want. So if you want a 4-foot dormer, just say 4'3". Okay. You can also change your roof pitch right here. Now, the only, it's not really a downfall, Chief always puts the largest window possible. So let's say I had a bath dormer, and I know that's, bath dormers are 8 foot. So I'll say 8'3". You can see he tries to put this big old whopping window in there. And it's not anything you're doing, it's just, for some reason when Chief does dormers like that, it puts the largest window possible. All you need to do is open up the window, and let's say it's 3046, 3654, and we're going to have to change the height, but let's just see what it looks like here in 3D first. Once you're here, you can drag the window down to where you think it looks like in the brochure or in our dormer guide. You're not gonna know all these dimensions exact. It's just impossible because there's just so many of them. You're just trying to get it look good for the customer, and that's pretty much what you want. So like I said, dormers, as long as you have all the right conditions, these dog dormers are real simple. Now, this is I did say this was a bath-sized dormer. If that was the case, this would be out over the wall. Okay, like that. So if we do our 3D view, there's our bath dormer, excuse me, over the wall. If I wanted to create a bath dormer from the start, when I click my auto dormer, instead of clicking inside here, I would just click on the outside of the outside of the wall, and it's automatically going to put it there for me. Then I can resize it to 8 foot, and there's my bath dormer. Okay. Any questions on cape dormers? Now, I guess I should. If you get this error message when you try to put an auto dormer in, you're going to say it can't find the walls. That's because you don't have your second floor and you don't have your knee walls. Okay? That's what that's telling you. Okay, how do you change it to a shed? Well, there's several ways. If we wanted this to be a shed roof, we can just say shed and open it up in 3D, and there's our shed roof. Now if we wanted that to be the full length of the house, and obviously we're not going to have that big old whopping window there. We know that'll be 80 since it's a bath dormer. Okay. Now, if you want the shed to be the full length of the house, I don't know that this would be the best way to go about it, because I don't think I ever used this one to use a... Let's just see what it does here once. Yeah. See, if you try to do the full length of the house, it's not going to give you what you want. What you need to do, I think I'm understanding you want a shed roof house, not a shed dormer, where you have this as a shed roof. What you need to do in that case is delete that roof, and you got to do some manual drawing. No, I'm sorry. We don't have to delete that. Let me undo that. There's an easier way. Once you have it drawn, now this will be a little trial and error. You need to pick on this roof plane. Remember how I said you can lock different pitches? Well, if we lock the ridge top, that's going to lock the peak of the roof. Okay? And then we know the shed, I think the shed is like 3 and 12 pitch. We'll just say we'll lock the ridge height, and we'll change the pitch to 312. And now when we do our full overview, there is our cape with the shed roof. I think that's what you were looking for when you asked that question. Okay? Versus, I guess you can change the actual dormer to a shed also. And I guess if it's not the full length of the house, you can just go ahead and stretch that, I guess. Although it's not going to come to the peak, so this probably is the better way to do it. And then you can see inside. Obviously, this knee wall wouldn't be here. There's our 3-box cape, I guess, or cape with shed roof, however you want to say it. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, I want to, the next thing I want to do, I've been getting a lot of questions on how to do porch roofs. And so this is, we'll go over this. We'll go ahead and close this cape plane down. Doesn't matter if it's cape, ranch, 2-story, we're going to do it all, it's going to be done all the same way. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and just open up a new plan. Now, I know it's a porch, but the best way to draw a porch, I feel, especially if you're not going to have a foundation under it, if it's something you're going to add on and you're just going to frame out and put some footers underneath the framing, this is the best way to do it. And we're going to do it by using our deck tools. And we'll draw a deck. Now, the only difference between a deck and a porch basically is the deck doesn't have a foundation under it. It has framing, it has deck framing, and it has framing underneath the deck to support it. Whereas a porch has a floor, and it would require a foundation under it. So I guess it depends how you're going to build it and how you're going to show it. See, you can obviously see the deck. There's your framing for the porch and the framing under the porch to support it, which is more than likely how you're going to build it if you're stick building it. You're not going to. You might have a concrete slab, I guess. In that case, you'd want to use a porch. So, if it's a let's make it so it's not so big. I'm just going to throw a couple quick dimensions on it here. 6 foot probably a good size for a porch, and let's just make it 12. It can be whatever size you want. And if I want to center this on the house or on a window or on a door, I can select all 3 walls. Basically, I just click hold shift and select the other two walls. Now I have all three of them selected. I can use my centering tool and I can center it on the front of the house. There we go. What I want to do first is I want to leave room type deck checked, but I can change the text here to porch. So whatever I type in here is what's going to show up here. The next thing I want to do is I want to lower my floor so the rain doesn't run in my front house. And you can see here I already have framing selected. Now none of you have this. Most of you probably don't have this yet because I just now completed all the templates for X4. I am going to put those on by the end of the year, and also have a new updated library at the end of the year. And also the next webinar, I'm going to go over the library because I put a lot of stuff in there to help you guys draw as far as trims, millwork, things like that, and I'll just go over what everything in the library is for. So there's a lot of new neat stuff in the library for the end of the year. So anyways, this is going to be framed out the way we want. The last thing we want to do is, well, it depends on when we want to add this step, depending on what kind of porch we're going to have. If this is going to be a reverse gable porch, I'll go ahead and change that to gable wall. And in here, I want to say ceiling over this room. If I don't check that, I'm also going to use soffit material for my ceiling. If I don't check that, it'll ignore the area and won't put a roof over it. So we'll say OK. We'll generate a roof. And there is our gable porch. Now, it didn't put the post to beams. So I have to change that. I'll have to set that. I'll have to set that all here, which is not hard to do. Just going under railing. We'll say post to beam. And I can also change my newel width. My newels, my posts are going to be more than 2 inches, which is, since it's railing, they're calling it newel. It's the same thing. I usually change my wall thickness to 5 also. Okay, so there's my roof with my post to beam. Now I put my opening wherever I want it. Okay, let's say we wanted a gable or a hip over the porch. I'm going to change this back to a hip, and I'm going to change these ends to gables. Now, if I generate my roof now, it's not going to give me what I want. Oops. Okay, you can see if I look at this, that's not what I want. So in this case, I have to draw this porch roof manually. I could do it with, but there's a lot of math involved, and it's a whole lot easier just to draw it manually. So what I want to, when I said you want to when you check these, determines on what kind of porch roof you want. This is the case. So I need to uncheck all these. Regenerate my roof, and swap views. Okay, my roof is generated, but I don't have one over the porch. This is where we need to draw one manually. So we know how to do that. We're already in roof plane mode. I want to make sure I'm over the outside edge of the wall. Left click, hold, drag, release, and snap inside. Now, I need to find out where these two intersect. But if I click on these, you can see I'm not getting an X. That's because if you go back to your basic general math days of geometry, we know that if this pitch is 512 and this pitch is 512, that means they're perpendicular or parallel to one another, so they're never ever going to intersect. So that means I need to change this roof pitch. Now, I can change it in here, or I can change it right from the start and say 312. Now just bear in mind that if you regenerate your roofs again automatically, it's going to change it to 312. But I already have my main house drawn, so I shouldn't need to change that again. You can see now there is my Let's move this porch out of the way. There's my 312 roof. Now if I select on this vertical edge and this horizontal edge, sometimes you have to click a couple times. There, I finally got it. Now I know that that roof intersects right there. Okay, there's my 12-inch overhang. Select this side, say minus 12. There's my 12-inch overhang. And now I have a couple things here that are missing. While one is I'm missing my gable walls, and two, if I do a cross section and look at this, my roof's probably a little high. It should actually be flush with my beam here. So I could come in here and measure this and manually lower it if I want. It's entirely up to you. You probably should. So let me go ahead and do that again. And I didn't forget you. I see your question about the foundation. We'll get to that here in a minute. And so let's lower it 1.5 inches. I'm just going to pick the roof, and I'm going to use my transform replicate. I don't want to copy, so I'm going to uncheck that. And I want to move it on the Z axis -1 7/16. Okay, now if we do a cross section, you can see now it's flush, which is how it should be, or more than likely how it's built. Now the reason we're missing the gable walls is if we go to the attic, obviously they're not there, we don't see them. All we need to do is open up our porch area and check ceiling. And it should, now there's our gable walls. If we go back to our camera view, there is our walls, but we're still missing something. We still have that little gap there. That's because anytime a roof plane is over our wall, it will cut that wall off. So what we need to do is we need to cut out the main roof right here in this little area. And to do that, we'll select the roof edge. We'll use our break line, and I'll break it here. Select break line, and I'll break it here. Now I want to make sure I get out of that break line mode so I don't break it again. And I'm just going to drag this back to here. Now we're almost there. We have one little step to go yet. You can see our walls there. But there should be a little gap there yet. And that's not joined, right? So we'll have to use our join roof tools to fix that. Now, usually, I don't know why it's not cutting this wall off. I'm just going to drag it over a little bit. It's still not joining there right either. You see how it's cutting the siding off of this wall? If I pick this wall, and down here on the edit bar, there's a display one floor above. It's a real useful tool. I can now select this edge, and because this roof plane is over the siding, it's cutting the siding off. So that needs to be dragged right to the edge of the siding. Okay, oops. As long as your snaps are on. And there. And why is that showing up like that? Let's move this back down to the first floor. Now, it doesn't actually move the roof. It just moves where it's displayed. And I don't understand why we're seeing that little... Oh, there we go. Now it should be good. Must have not took it the first time. Okay, now it's joined properly. There's our gable wall, and it's not cutting it off. Okay. Now, this, I'm just going to go ahead and throw a quick terrain on here. And I'm going to lower it so it's not flush with the foundation or it's It's not flush with the base, the bottom of the house. I'm also going to throw a foundation in real quick. Just going to use all the default settings. Okay. So that's basically what you would have if you stick built the porch and you made it a lot of lumber. Even though we're calling it a deck, it's still a porch. It's basically a porch with a roof over top of it. Now let's say we want a porch with a foundation. Well, we'll go in here and we'll change the room type to porch. And what that'll do is it'll give us a concrete slab, but you can see now it's hanging out there in no man's land. Well, what we want to do is we want to put a foundation under the porch. So we'll go down to our foundation layer, and we're going to turn on our reference display so we can see the outline of our porch. And you can see it's right there. What you want to do from here is go to your wall tool and straight foundation wall. Make sure your snaps are turned on, and it should snap right to the corner of the porch wall. Just left click and drag, left click and drag, left click and drag. Now there is our foundation over our porch. Okay, so depending on how you're building it, there's two different ways to do it. Let's go back up a level. And let's say our porch, I'm going to get rid of all this. I'm going to say, I'm going to get rid of the ceiling over this. I'm going to rebuild the roof. It's telling me everything I did is going to be deleted. Let's say we have a wraparound porch. And you want a roof over this. And we'll just keep it the same size as the other one, 6 foot deep. We can do the same thing we did before. Go ahead and draw our roof, and we'll draw it this way. And we already have the point there that where they're intersecting because I didn't change anything, but it wouldn't be there normally. We'll get our overhang right. Now this is just going to come flush to the edge of the house. But what we can do is select this edge, join roof planes, and we might have to do a little tweaking here. Yeah, that's you know what happened when I rebuild that roof. Remember I told you if you regenerate your roof, and I went ahead and I did it. Didn't change it back. So let's rebuild the roof. It's going to go ahead and get rid of the porch roof I just did. Now let's try this again. Oops. And I got that a little off kilter there, so we'll delete that. And I want to change this to 312. I can instead of changing it here like I did before, you can also do it this way like we did with the reverse gable. We can lock our fascia and change the pitch to 3. I'll have to do the same with this one. Lock the fascia, change the pitch to 3. And let's get rid of those X's. We'll do the horizontal of this one, the vertical of this one, and that's where they intersect. Get our overhang right. Excuse me, this is going to stop at the side of the house. And we'll just join our roof edges. And maybe you want a hip on this end. So we'll just go ahead and draw a roof over here. We need to change that to 312 also. Lock our fascia, change the pitch. Now, if you try to join this and this, sometimes it gives you an error message that says it has to make one of the edges 0 or something. All you need to do is make this a triangle instead of a square, and it should do it. It should go ahead and join them for you. But if not, hopefully you can do it just the way I did it, which you can see now it's a triangle. It's not a four-sided square. So there. Now you can see I said we might have to do a little tweaking. There's our hip on the end of that porch roof. There's that. And this one's square. And again, if we want, we need to get our gable wall back in there. First we need to fix this though. What we need to do here is we need to get this to come up. So I need to break this edge here, and I should get a point where they and I just happened to get, let's see what that looks like. No, that's got to go up more. Should give me a point where it intersects. There we go. Okay? And again, to get that gable wall, we need to open this up and say, I usually check ceiling because then it automatically checks roof for you. And if we look now, there is our gable, but again we have to adjust the house roof. So basically I need to break it here or thereabouts and pull it all the way back, and I'll probably have to break it here. Some of this is trial and error. You'll have to, when you make adjustments, you'll just have to keep swapping back and forth and see what it does. And there, I got it back to where it should be. And again, there is my gable wall, but you can see it's cutting the siding off. So we'll take the main house, we'll move it up one layer, and I'll pull it flush with the siding. Okay? Now it didn't move the actual roof, it just moved to where it displays. So there's our wall. Okay? Any questions on that so far? Hopefully I'm not losing everybody when I go over these. Okay, I'm running a little long today, but I have two more things that I want to go over. And I'm going to go ahead and close this down and start with a new plan. Let's say we have a we want a cathedral ceiling. Well, the way we do that is, remember I said we had a ceiling plane tool? We use this basically the same way we do a roof. Start over the outside edge, left click, hold and drag, and draw it to the inside. The only difference here is we want to drag this to the edge of the wall. There, and the edge of the wall there. And we're going to drag this to the center. Now I need to not use an exterior wall, use an interior wall. And let's say this is our hall, so we're going to make that invisible. In this room here, I want to open it up, and I want to say, I want to uncheck ceiling over this room. What that's going to do is it's going to open it up, and it's going to allow me to use that ceiling plane that I just put in there. Now you might say, well, it's not there. Where is it? It's there. We just need to adjust it. So if I select it, open it up, the inside bottom would be here where the wall meets. The outside bottom would be out here where it's over the wall, and then obviously at the ridge is right here. What I want to do is lock the outside the outside bottom, and I need to change it to my ceiling height. So if I have 8-foot ceilings, that's 96 5/8, counting the drywall that's on the ceiling. I'm going to lock that. And the pitch in our cathedral ceilings is only about 1 in 12. Believe it or not, they're not very pitched. So now if we swap views and look, there is our cathedral ceiling over that room. Okay? To do the other side, I just repeat the process, or once I have this set the way I want, I can just copy it and reflect it about center point of the house, and there is our cathedral ceiling. Now if we wanted that to be over the hallway, which it would be if it's well, no, that would actually be a flat area there. So what I would need to do is this wall, I would extend it out, and I would want to break it here, break it there, and say this is invisible. Okay. I need to open this back up and make sure the ceiling is checked again. And there is my hallway with my cathedral roof in my house. Now this works for 712, 512, whatever the pitch is. Okay, any questions on that? All right, the last thing I want to cover is, let's say we have a 2-story. Now this is a ranch. Obviously, you can tell because there's only one floor. If we have a 2-story and you didn't start with the 2-story templates that I have, you can create your own 2-story from a ranch by just adding a floor. So we go to Floor Tool, and we can say Build New Floor. Say OK. Now the only thing we need to do here is we need to set the ceiling height, which more likely going to be 8 foot, so we'll say 96 5/8. And under the Floor Structure tab, there's no way for Chief to say, Chief doesn't, there's no way to build it the way we build modulars. In other words, to have a separate floor and a separate ceiling. So in Chief, you have to combine the two. So we know we have a 2x10 ceiling, or a 2x10 floor, and a 2x6 ceiling, plus our gap. Well, if you do all the math, it winds up to be 17 inches total between the ceiling and the floor. So if I say 16 1/4 framing plus my 3/4 deck, that gives me my 17 inches. So we'll say OK. Now I can see L, my floor structure L is 17 inches. H is my first floor ceiling height with this 8 foot, and E is my rough ceiling height for my second floor. And the reason it says finished ceiling heights is 9 5 3/8 is because it's figuring 5/8 for carpeting and pad. Okay. So we'll say OK, and there is my second floor without the marriage wall. And when I add the marriage wall, I can copy, and if I hit Control-Alt-V, it copies and pastes in place. Okay, so there's my second floor. All I need to do is regenerate the roof. And say OK. Oops, wrong one. There's my 2-story. Now the reason I did this is because I want to show you, go back down to the first floor. Let's say we have a garage on the end of this house. But the garage roof is opposite of the house roof. In other words, instead of the pitches running this way, like this, let's say they're running peak. Let's say the peak is running down here instead of down here. Well, what do we do in that case? Well, we're going to have to draw this manually just because of the fact that it wouldn't work right. And let's change this to 1212. So I'm going to lock the fascia, change it to 12. Actually, I need to size it first. Sorry about that. Go ahead and make this, just make it a 25, which is our common garage size. And let's get it centered on the house. And I think this is, if I remember right, these are both 14 inches. Now I wanted the inside dimensions, so if I just grab those diamonds and drag them away, it gets rid of those. And yeah, there's my 25 feet. Okay, so let me put this roof back on. Oop. And let's undo that. Double click to open this up, lock the fascia, change it to 12. I'll get my overhang right. Get my overhang right. Okay, now I can't just come over here and draw this one. So basically what I need to do is I need to mirror it. So I'm going to type W in on the keyboard to get my CAD line tool. And I'm going to draw, snap from that outside edge to that outside edge. Make sure I'm on the blue part, which is the framing part. Just drag this out a little bit. I want to do is select this and mirror it. That way I know I have an exact mirror. It's where it's supposed to be. Now I'm going to run into some issues, which is why I'm doing this, so I can show you how to fix everything. See, I get an error message right away saying, hey, your roof is into your wall on the second floor. I know that, so we'll say okay. If we look, you can see it cut the wall and everything off. And that's because, if you remember from earlier, I said anytime a roof plane is over top of a wall, it will cut it off. So all I need to do is grab this and drag this back flush with the siding. Now, we should be good. Okay. The reason I didn't start here and go over is because it would have thrown the baseline of my roof off. Now I can select this edge, use my join roof, and that edge, and it should be centered right over the center of the garage, which is what I want. Okay. So there's my garage with my roof reversed of what the main house is. Now what I need to do is I need to create a saddle in here, and there's no way you're ever going to be able to do that automatically. Chief would have to go a long way to accomplish that. But it's not hard to draw it manually. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our roof tool. Oops, not our cabinet tool, our roof tool. And I'm going to start here and just start with a roof. I'm going to get this message box that says, where do I want to set the baseline height? Do I want to put it over top of the wall or over top of the roof plane? Well, I want to start it over the wall, and we'll tweak. It'll tweak itself. We'll tweak it as we adjust it. And this is a 12-12 roof, so let's just make this. Let's lock our fascia and let's make it 9. And this is just stuff you do by trial and error. There's no right number or there's no wrong number. If you do a smaller pitch, it'll just where it intersects here in the middle. It'll either be higher on the house or lower on the house. That's all this pitch is telling us right now. Okay, so don't be real concerned with the pitch, because you can always change it later if you want it to be higher or lower. So we'll do the same thing over here. We're going to get that same message again over top of wall. And let's open it up and lock the fascia and say 9. Okay, I can go ahead and drag it to the edge of the siding right away. And I can go ahead and join them also. Okay, so now we have the start of our saddle, and I guess you can tell right away now if you wanted it to be higher or lower. You should probably change it right away. Okay, in other words, if you wanted to come up to this peak, I would imagine you would need probably 1212 or maybe even greater. But I'm just going to go ahead and go with this. What I need to do, you can see this plane is still square. Well, I need it to be a triangle. So basically, I need to grab this edge and make it a triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to grab this, drag it down to the edge. Oops. And when I do that, it automatically gets rid of the 4 sides. Now it's only 3 sides. Do the same here. And now what I need to do is I need to know where these roof planes intersect this roof plane. So if I grab that horizontal edge or vertical edge and that horizontal edge, there's my point. Now if I drag this one over, drag this one over, and I'm not going to worry about adjusting this plane because this saddle actually sits on top of the roof, so I'm not going to want to cut that out. Now you can see everything looks good with the exception of we have a little bit there and a little bit there. All we need to do there is grab this, and if we drag this back to the siding, that should take care of that. Okay, so there's our saddle. Obviously, you're going to have to do it manually, but as long as you know what Chief wants, and if you're drawing porch roofs manually, you should be able to get to the point where you can draw this manually. It's fairly simple. I think I shouldn't say it's fairly simple. It's once you get to do it a couple times, you'll be like, oh, okay, I can do that. Okay, so any questions on anything I covered today or anything else you might have? Well, if there's no questions, then everybody have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, or Hanukkah, or whatever it is you celebrate. This will be available for a CD if you would like one. If you'd like one, just email Sean Reedy, and we'll get one burnt for you and mailed to you. Also, look for the new X4 library to be available on the website by the end of the year. There's going to be all the new colors that I can find, unless Rox changes one, which she has a habit of doing, which is okay. She's keeping up with the times. That's good. Like I said, there'll be all the new colors, and there's also a lot of new features in there. I shouldn't say features. A lot of things to help to make your drawing easier, or showing the customer what they want. And I will go over that the next time in the next Chiefs training session. We'll go over all the things that are in the library, and there might be something in there that you'll be like, well, what's that for? What do I do with that? I'll show you exactly what I have things in there for. So again, everybody have a good holiday, and if there's no other questions, our webinars are always on the, well, I shouldn't say always, we try to always make them on the 3rd Thursday of the month. So that's kind of what we try to hold to. Just keep an eye on your emails, though. Just Sean always sends out a web blast, and then he also sends out an invite for everybody. So there's no other questions. Everybody have a good holiday, and we'll see you next year.